We will now begin with our first session of the morning, which focuses on the partnership between the National Health Mission, the Banyan, Azim Premji Foundation, and our local implementation partners, and brings together all stakeholders to speak to this unique collaboration that solidifies the sustainability of the ECRC model and replicates comprehensive acute care services across districts in Tamil Nadu. With the recent announcement of the adoption of the ECRC model by the government of Tamil Nadu, many more homeless persons living with mental illness across the state will have access to mental health support. Moreover, the government, working in collaboration with regional civil society organizations, will also help build care ecologies and local care networks with a larger impact of destigmatizing mental illness in communities. Having set the norm for extremely jam-packed sessions, I'd like to get started by inviting Mr. N. Ram, who's been with us graciously over the past 2 days, onto stage. Mr. N. Ram is the director of the Hindu Group Publishing Private Limited, a trustee of the BAM, and founding trustee of the Asian College of Journalism. Thank you, Mr. Ram, for being here. On the panel today, we have Dr. J. Radhakrishnan, an IAS officer who is currently the Additional Chief Secretary of Food and Consumer Protection Department with the Government of Tamil Nadu, and formerly the Commissioner of the Greater Chennai Corporation. Welcome, sir. We also have Ms. Shilpa Prabhakar, IAS, currently serving as the Mission Director and Commissioner for Maternal and Child Health at the National Health Mission since 2022. Welcome, ma'am. We're also delighted to have with us Dr. C. Ramasubramanian. Dr. C. Ramasubramanian has founded the MS Chellamuthu Trust and Research Foundation. It's been operational since 1992. The trust operates a 150-bedded treatment center and 5 psychosocial rehab homes with almost 350 bed capacity for both men and women, and is the largest service provider in the south of Tamil Nadu. Welcome, sir. He graciously came by flight just this morning to be with us, so really appreciate Dr. CRS being here. We also invite Dr. Malaiappan onto stage, who is the director of the Institute of Mental Health and professor of psychiatry at Madras Medical College, also serving as the chief executive officer at the Mental Health Authority and the state nodal officer for the district mental health program in Tamil Nadu. Welcome, sir. We're also very delighted to welcome Hrishikesh Parthasarathy from Azim Premji Foundation. Rishi closely mentors and advises the Aladamara Foundation, which is a joint initiative of Azim Premji Foundation and the Banyan, and their work for homeless persons living with mental illness in Bangalore. Rishi firmly espouses collaborative efforts for greater impact in the sector. Welcome, Rishi. For the Banyan, we have our very own Dr. Archana Padmakar, the co-director of the Banyan and the lead for the Emergency Care and Recovery Center. And finally, we have our very own, very lovely Mrinalini Ravi, who's the Deputy Director of the Banyan, the BAM, and Algamar. With this wonderful panel on stage, I request Mr. N. Ram to please begin the moderation. Thank you.
This session is titled, Good Morning, before that. National Health Mission, the Banyan, the public NGO / private partnerships and their experience. And we have people with a lot of experience, problem solvers in the field, academics, big philanthropists, representatives of major foundation, others who tried out different methods in the field. So I think it's going to be an interesting panel, and I have to keep a close eye on the time because we don't want to deprive the next panel of its due share in this international conference. I just want to make a couple of quick points. I don't know how they relate to this, but reading about some of the things that came up, the act that was enacted by the Indian Parliament and has been notified, has come into force in 2017, the Mental Health Care Act of 2017 confers magnificent rights. If you just go down the side, Chapter 5, Rights of Persons with Mental Illness, I think there's nothing wanting in that, the rights. I don't have the time to go into all of them, but the right to access mental health care, and then there's a definition of mental illness which will interest, because you would have seen it, Professor Sanjeev Jain, where it's a direct provocation to what that approach. And by the way, after that, those moments when there was a fairly sharp exchange of views, I looked up some of the bit of the literature, and there's a whole area of philosophy and madness, which I think is not part of the remit of this conference, but people may be interested in delving into that later. But things like the right to community living, it's already part of that. Right to protection from cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment, right to equality and non-discrimination. Professor Sashidharan mentioned that in the UK and European context, of course, also with reference to India, I think. The right to information, right to confidentiality, restrictions on release of information in respect of mental illness, right to access medical records, right to personal contacts and communication, right to legal aid, right to make complaints about deficiencies or provision of services, and so on. Absolutely nothing wanting in this respect. But Sanjeev referred to that, how envious he was of what our friends from Trieste have. I think when you look at that, I think these lines come to mind. Between the idea and the reality, between the motion and the act, falls the shadow. Between the conception and the creation, between the emotion and the response, falls the shadow, and so on. This is, of course, from T.S. Eliot's great poem, The Hollow Men. Maybe in a different context, but we have to figure out what the shadow is. And very quickly on another point, just to illustrate this, that there's a huge gap, a credibility gap between what is guaranteed under the Act and by the Constitution and by policy, the National Health Mission being a leading arm of this policy. I think there's that huge gap. And the latest budget, I have to register this because Srinath Reddy, the Public Health Foundation of India, was mentioned, the man who's behind its establishment, its development, and so on, has written an article in the Hindu today on words versus the actual allocation and so on. And I don't know how many people realize that spending on health, India is among the lowest. It's about 3% of the gross national product, compared with nearly 17% for the US and many other countries. They are in double digits. China, I think, is about 5 or a little over 5, but it's hardly 3%.
It's not
No, that's budget allocation. You're talking about budget allocation. Government's budget allocation for healthcare is, the target was 2.5 to be achieved in 2025, but it's not going to be achieved. It's far below that. But that's just an illustration of what is wanting. So the question of government, NGO, private partnership, when you talk about private, it's often seen as commercial. So I think we have to make that distinction. I think has become extremely important, and that is what we are now going to look at. So I'll move there. I think those are the remarks I just wanted to make in case they're of interest. Dr. Radhakrishnan to... Is it on? Yeah. It's on, yeah. To give us his impression or assessment of the ECRC collaboration in Tamil Nadu and why this government took that route. This state government in the state of Tamil Nadu, which, as I said, periodically ranks number 1 in India today's state of the states overall in all respects. Certainly one of the most developed among the Indian states, although a lot more needs to be done. Dr. Radhakrishnan has had tremendous experience in the field. He has been Health Secretary for Health and Family Welfare. So I'm inviting him to open the innings.
First of all, it's a privilege to get an opportunity to meet all of you. My own esteemed senior Dr. Sujata Rao, all the esteemed people here. We have worked in one way or other. This itself, being an international conference, is a collaboration. Of course, our people in NHM have been in NHM also. See, I'll start by totally different context. See, I was one of the officers who has been unfortunate enough on one side to deal with some of the worst disasters. One was Kumbakonam fire tragedy. Second was where 94 children died. Then another tragedy was tsunami, where again directly, immediately in the aftermath of loss of life, 6,065 people died in Nagapattinam. After that, the challenge was how do we work together on both these issues. Immediately after a week or so, what hit us was the soft issues and neglected issues, and mental health seemed to be one of the most important issues, psychosocial support. And again, the lesson I'm bringing the NGO and the other expert context is, we realize that in all such matters, rather than approaching it in a statistical way, I always say disaster is not a statistic. We had to approach and realize that you need people with capacities, people with empathy, who can probably train our grassroots people and ensure and identify. Then only you can identify who are the people who actually need care. Ultimately, after the affected population, 20% people, when you talk through, get along and say, okay, this is a tragedy, you have to move along. But 20% needed mental health support. And out of that, 3% needed, in our analysis, proper medication from the primary health care or probably even to a secondary and tertiary care. This was one background where I realized the essence that, bringing in NGO, that time, CMC Vellore, then of course our mental health specialists from Chennai and social work people, they came in a very big way. Otherwise, everybody thinks mental health means psychiatrist. Not psychologist, and it is all encompassing. So that realization came, and probably the experience of Kumbakonam fire tragedy ensured that we could bring in these experts well in advance. More than the experts, bringing in the non-governmental organizations with capacities to partner. That was the seed. The second challenge, I think Malaiappan, all of them are there, many mental health specialists. I still distinctly remember there was basically a false article about how people are being ill-treated in Institute of Mental Health. Citing, it keeps on WhatsApp circulating. Every 15 days they will say people are being beaten, but it perhaps was some 10 years back, some issue that was being brought out in major papers, and we went back to our Institute of Mental Health, which is there from 1790s onwards. The moment I went there, I found one individual. I talked to him. He said, "What is your name?" He said, "My name is." I remember because his name was my name, Radhakrishnan. He was very fit, very normal. Then I told him, "Yempa ninga, why are you here? Why don't you go home?" Then he said, "Do you have contact?" And he happened to be from my wife's place, Madurai. Then again I got his contact, called him. Then the other man on the other land, he said, "Sir, are you just by side of him?" So I told him, no, I'm just moving away. Tell me, he's so fit, you should be so happy to bring him back to his family. I said, "Sir, you will be really like a god to me if you don't send him back. We know he is normal, but we don't want him." You can understand the dilemma. So this is what a dilemma holds us. Now I'll go, before I come back to how we went to ECRC, a small background that we, like he said, Tamil Nadu is one of the leading states as far as primary health care is concerned, as far as SDG is concerned. We have probably achieved some of the goals much ahead, health goals much ahead of the other countries. But where I think a developing society needs to do internationally also, the mental health, geriatric care, and again rare diseases, these are some areas where we know there is an issue, but we don't probably address. And the biggest problem is both with the government and with the community is that this is an issue is perhaps many a times not an issue for us, becomes an issue for this gathering. That this issue, somehow we decide not to take it as an issue because other pressing issues do. What happens 13 years, 2017 we started. Looking at the Mental Health Act, I should distinctly acknowledge the services of Dr. Sendil. he was a very good officer, was later health secretary also. We worked on the mental health policy, and of course Dr. Keshav Desi Raju, we should never forget, apart from other experts. See, we found in Tamil Nadu, in generally 13% of years lost to mental health problem worldwide. But again, we are not showing 90% of the people with mental health do not receive appropriate care. Then when you look at depressive disorders having almost 4th as far as years lived with disability is there, anxiety is 10th, and schizophrenia is 15th. These are all important enough for us to address. But somewhere down the line, it will be slightly secondary to other primary issues like maternal. I always say health means one side they say maternal child health, another side they say diseases. But within the diseases, somewhere down the line, the focus on these kind of challenges goes down. Then again, when you look at in Indian context in 2017, they said 150 million people probably would be with it. That itself may be an underestimate. Then only 10% with common mental disorders and 40 to 50% with schizophrenia access any form of health care. I'm coming to, people shouldn't forget that I shouldn't go back from my ECRC. This is the background situation. Then that time itself, Tamil Nadu, I'm sure with the present leadership, it would have gone much more. I saw the health secretary statement. Essential psychotropic, Tamil Nadu was one of the districts which what was having 68% of essential psychotropic drugs in the PSC level. Then again, when you look at the morbidity, 10.6 among adults, 7.3% is among the adolescents, and roughly 1 among 10% have this problem. But how many times do we meet? How many times this gets focused? See, sometimes they say, the focus is more on, it is equally important, maternal child health. Communicable is equally important. But this side, somewhere down the line, we need to focus. So what happened was, similarly, we started getting the problem of homeless people. Homeless people, again, when you look at definition wise, it is open roadside pavement, those who are within flyover, hume pipes, like that and all, but that itself may be underestimated. So that roughly in Tamil Nadu, that times we estimated around 50,000, which itself, honestly, I personally feel would be an underestimate, and 1.78 million as far as India is concerned. 25, the other point is homelessness and mental health also gets linked. At least 25% would be having mental health challenges. So when these kind of challenges were thrown up, so we said, how do we handle it? One, we decided upfront, of course it continues, while we can talk of institutional health care, when we can talk of having one of the oldest mental health institution which is also getting transformed now as a major center, but that alone is not a solution. That alone will end up with Radhakrishnan, not me. Okay, that Radhakrishnan who is successfully treated but not being willing to go back to home again program. So that is where we decided that one, before coming to ECRC, we have to expand. And it is very romantic. It's an intellectual gathering. So I want to be honest. We will tell that Tamil Nadu that time had 25 districts covered with mental health program. That was the largest. I'm talking my era. This era, things have changed. That itself is an understatement. After that, we decided all the new districts will do. So Tamil Nadu is the only state where all the districts we have district mental health program. Again, it will be posting one psychiatrist, not enough psychologists, not enough psychosocial workers. Then we realized that we have to change. Then we decided to put in satellite psychiatrists, so that we can actually provide that kind of care to our people in this, in our taluks. Because nobody is there in taluk to tell. Already there is a stigma, people don't come. Somebody has to do the outreach and allow people that please come here, you have got some simple medications, probably quite a lot of you will repair. That was missing. So first step towards thing was, apart from state mental health policy and all, which was brought back, mental health authority was reconstituted properly as per the guidelines, institutions have to be made. This step was taken that we took it to not only all the district, at least provided these satellite people. Then the next challenge was what we do about homelessness. Homelessness with this challenge. This is where, despite our Supreme Court has given that every 1 lakh population we should have one homeless. But when you look at the strength, I have just demitted my office again as commissioner. We have 49 shelters. but only 1374 people in the shelter. Are we honest that all the homeless people are provided accommodation? So this is where I think we have to expand that and make this access. That is where this ECRC came in. This particular centers were actually a revolution as far as that time was concerned, because it had double kind of approach. One was that we had our own specialists there, our own institutional care, our own care that up to primary health care you can access this care, that which is being taken excellently now. But then a realization also that somebody who has to be brought back to these centers. So how do we run the centers? How do we create these centers? In a government setup, it takes time. We may have capacity, we may have money, we may have intent, but we may not have empathy, or we may not have adequate capacity people. So that is where joining hands. I always believe that not having a competitive approach will be a very successful thing in life. Because government is all pervasive. Government is there. If you get a credit, government, if negative also government will get. But if you join with a people with capacity who have mental health issues totally demystified, you will, rather than being additive to that, rather than being multiplicative, rather than being geometric, it will have exponential impact. That is what, when we started it in ICH or Tenkasi and Tirunelveli, Thoothukudi, if I am correct, there was a huge demand. These things totally changed. So our next step to bringing in this ECRC was marrying the right people, whether it is Car, whether it is Banyan, whether it is this. There is no, we need not be shy to say that NGOs probably will have greater capacity, greater focus, because they are not transferable. They will be there. And those with empathy only will continue. Those who are not having empathy, not suited, will suitably get moved out. What is the advantage of NGO? To bring in legitimacy to the legitimate efforts which they are taking. So they actually not only supported and did capacity building for us in identifying and ensuring that they properly get treated, they also added value, and that probably was the biggest success. As we did this emergency, and it is actually, the numbers are there for all of you to see, how many people got cured, how many people got admitted, and at least as per the act, we also now, Supreme Court, when they mentioned about this in 2017, they meant business. So all of us in government, if we have to fall in line, we have to ensure that it has to be done. So for that, this ECRC was a very important platform, and ECRC now, wherever it is, has been highly successful. You can go to ICH premises where it is there in Chennai, or in Kadalur, or some other, whatever districts it is there, you can see. But finally, is it the end of the program? No. Again, I will come back to that so-called Radhakrishnan. Home again program is the biggest. At least X number of people from there could be immediately, examined for the mental health illness and brought back. So ultimately, according to me, the ECRC's success is not just as a model, but as a concept. In mental health, we all have to work together. Experts who are doing research. Homeless is not unique to Chennai or India or Tamil Nadu. It is there in London. You do a Google search, you will find they are also addressing similar challenges. Similar challenges in California. So maybe the scale may be different, but we all need to work together and ensure that this is not lost as a one-time intervention to be written in papers, but it has to be vibrant. For that, I am very sure that present Health Secretary and NHM, I need to also mention that for sustainability, NHM is very critical. I am very happy that Madam is there and Health Secretary was there in the previous day for any program, especially the programs which are just born. Just born is mental health. Though it has been recognized for 40 years back onwards that we are not giving adequate attention. Real thrust has started coming only from 2000, particularly after these initiatives we have done. Tamil Nadu, I am sure the present Health Secretary and they will be telling it. We are the first state probably to come up with a policy. First state also to address it as a homelessness as a policy, and for us, criticality wise, ECRC and the NGO government coordination, which it shows, it's something which I hope will ensure sustainability, provided we continue to build the capacity of the people coming in. And last but not least, we are with NHM, we need to ensure that similarly, because the biggest challenge we used to have was not having adequate posts. Now NHM has addressed this and brought in posts, but again in these posts, capable people who have empathy should get admitted. Finally, mental health is not an issue to be talked for somebody else. All of us face it at some phase of our day, or sometimes when we look at it, probably I am also having the same kind of, at least depression everybody goes through. If not having, and the second, I feel that, without putting it, most of it at some point is bipolar. So we need to understand that this is something which we have to approach not only with empathy, but with total dedication, that there is some place where we can be proud of the ECRC, proud of the NGO government interface which it created, but with a realization that there is so much more for all of us to travel. We can be claiming to be one of the first states to have this policy, and we can be one of the first states where, up to grassroots levels we have taken it, and we are planning to ensure that that is there. But we also should understand that Tamil Nadu has slightly higher than national average mental health issues. I think experts are here to confirm it. And as far as homelessness is concerned, it is a very dynamic kind of issue. It is not necessary that, this is the end of it. It's completely cured. Like, COVID has been controlled. That kind of thing cannot be there. It will be a continuing exercise, and I am sure these examples will not only be examples for Tamil Nadu to follow, but for all other states to emulate as far as this, having capable NGOs to take forward this ECRC examples. Thank you, Manoj.
Thank you, Dr. Radhakrishnan. Excellent, thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Shilpa Prabhakar. She's an officer of the Indian Administrative Service with an experience of about 15 years, nearly 15 years, and she's held leading positions, responsibilities in the National Health Mission in Tamil Nadu. She's known for effective implementation of policies. And the question to you is, what's the way forward for these partnerships? And could you also speak about the Tamil Nadu policy for homeless persons with mental health issues and the current status, maybe
Yes,
plus
yes.
whatever else you have in mind?
Yes, sir.
5
morning,
minutes,
everyone.
5 to 7 minutes.
Yes, sir. I'll. Morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this program. Yes, as sir rightly mentioned, I would be exactly talking about the policy aspects and what have we been doing and what is the way forward. Because most of it, Sir Radhakrishnan sir has just mentioned how Tamil Nadu government under the National Health Mission, we associated with the Banyan, and through them, through many other NGOs who have been helping us in running the emergency care and recovery centers. Now, as sir rightly mentioned, in 2019, the state has come up with a state mental health policy to promote mental well-being and to prevent mental illness, and for socio-economic inclusion of these people into the society by providing comprehensive mental health care. Now, the policy rightly points out the importance of the most vulnerable population to be taken care, that is the homeless and also who are mentally ill. So the policy suggests that we must come up with intermediary care and recovery centers, as many as possible, to see that we do not have any of these people for want of care should be left alone. Now, but even before that, in 2018, as I rightly mentioned, we had come up with this emergency care and recovery centers, along with the NGO partner, that is the Banyan, for the state level, where they took up around 8 to 9 districts to start these centers. And looking at that model, we also have government-run ECRCs. So today we have around 19 districts where we have been successfully implementing these centers. So the centers have psychiatrists, field staff, the support staff, and where the diet is provided by the hospitals where they are housed, and the medicines, medical support, any other lab examinations, and all the requirements that are necessary for the inmates is the duty of the government. Even with the Banyan, the arrangement is the same, where we have provided space in the medical center, and diet and medical expenses are borne by the state, while everything else from the community level programs, outreach programs, training and maintenance of the entire center is all done by the Banyan with the CSR funds that they have been managed to take, along with the local NGO partners. So this is a wonderful model for any state to emulate, because we've been talking about it at the national level, where we see that one NGO coming along with us as a partner, and they in turn engage the local partners who are sensitive to the cultural aspects of the region, who know the local area, and through the local partners they are working with us. So this has helped us in two ways. One, we maintain the standards in all the centers. There is uniformity of services, and while the local partners are given a recognition, so they are the ones like the Soya Trust who gave the speech yesterday. I know them when I was collector Tirunelveli. They were always doing wonderful work with the local support that they were able to manage. But after they became one of the partner NGOs of the Banyan, I see a very good shift in the standards provided and the way they've been able to talk. Because, I think that which is what you are giving the NGOs. They are able to voice their concerns and demand from the administration that these are the services required for the center. And the entire administration is now being supportive for the cause. So I think that has happened because of this collaboration. And way forward, sir, as we mentioned, that there is still a big gap that we have to see. If you see the numbers of people rescued, if it is around 3,000 to 4,000 so far, both NGOs and government-run institution, 60% of them usually go back to their families. We are able to reunite them with the families. But there is still a majority portion of these people who will land up in long-term homes. So the concern now is we do not want them to be back in the mentally ill home. So they have to be socially integrated back into the society. So if not the families are not ready to take in, as I rightly mentioned, many of the inmates do not go back to their houses because the families do not want them. But it is not right for us to keep them in long-term homes. So with the home again concept that Department of Family Welfare has already gotten MOU with the Banyan, and we are also planning to engage them to see to it that a lot of halfway homes and home again, these concepts are brought in, where we want people to start living independently when they are capable of handling themselves. We have arranged for vocational training, giving them all other social benefits that are required, and to see that these trainings enable them to start living independently. For this, sir, I would mention here that NHM, along with the Banyan and various departments, we have drafted the policy for homeless, mentally ill people, which is completed, and now with the government, anytime we will be releasing the policy. Now, this policy is basically an interdepartmental coordination and the coordination between government and the non-government, where we have what is the role of each of us when we talk of rescue, and when it is about recovery part, that is the intermediary part, and the rehabilitation part. For the rehabilitation part, we have formed a district level committee which will go on a right-based approach, which will decide on the rehabilitation package for every individual who needs to be rehabilitated. Because we just let them go back to the society and they start living. It is not possible. Very soon you will find them back into our homes. So if they should not come back to the home, you really have to have a good support system at the society, be it from the panchayats for them to give them housing, be it from the revenue to give them necessary support in terms of pensions, ration cards, and give them necessary support, and the continued support for vocational training, giving them jobs, see to it that they can live independently, and handholding by the NGOs will still be required until they are completely capable of living independently. Now this will be under the purview of the district administration, so that they know that each person who is getting back into the society will have a package of services, and will also see that how is he being accommodated back into the society without any issues. So I think, sir, once the policy is out, we will have an engagement with many organizations, especially in Banyan and other people who are willing to work with us, to see to it that not just the rescue and recovery part, for the rehabilitation part also we will take care of. So looking forward to more collaborations with you.
Thank you very much. Gopikumar, the co-founder of the Banyan, just came up to tell me that this is a superb, honest, and effective summary assessment of the experience so far. So I just want to report that to the audience. Thank you very much. Next is a special and unusual person, Hrishikesh Parthasarathy, representing a great foundation, Azim Premji Foundation. He's a chartered accountant by original profession, but he is an expert on, his primary expertise is how to work partnerships and alliances and make them work. He's worked for over a decade with Microsoft India, where again he focused on building and scaling partnership engagement. And let me also record my personal admiration for the work done by the Azim Premji Foundation, not just in this context, but I think one of India's great philanthropists, Azim Premji, and he's built up a wonderful team which doesn't just squander money, but makes every rupee count, I believe, or pretty close to that. Hrishikesh.
I'm quite lucky. There isn't a specific question I have to talk about, so I can ramble.
No, actually I do. Because my tutors gave me this question. Can you speak about the role of the Azim Premji Foundation and your experience with the ECRC, but anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah.
Fine. You're free.
I will definitely answer that, but also ramble a bit. So thank you all. It's a privilege to be here. And as Mr. Ram said, the Azim Premji Foundation, hopefully many of you know us. We are not a CSR. We clarify that repeatedly when it's a philanthropic initiative by Mr. Premji and his family. We started our work supporting teachers working in the public education system, where we are an implementing organization. We work in 50 districts in 7 states. We started the Azim Premji University in 2010. It's primarily a university to build and nurture talent for the social sector. We have 2 campuses now in Bangalore and Bhopal, and the 3rd and 4th coming up, with plans for the 3rd campus to be a teaching hospital and a medical college in Ranchi. We started a grants work in 2015. We support nearly 1,200 organizations in India today with multi-year grants. And the Banyan has been a very special, one of our oldest partnerships. We really value the relationship. And we support NGOs, non-profits in a range of areas. Mental health and homelessness is one of them, but many diverse areas. Survivors of gender-based violence, children on the street, distressed farmers, adolescent programs to support adolescent girls, trans persons, and a range of many other themes. I still remember where I was driving. I was coincidentally driving in rural Tamil Nadu between Tirunelveli and Sri Vaikundam when I got this call from Vandana saying that there is this potential, and she just described the opportunity in a few minutes to scale up the Tamil Nadu ECRCs with the government. And I think we said yes instantly the same evening. Maybe I did not have all the authority to say yes, but basically we said we'll figure it out, go ahead and say yes. And because there is a lot of work. The Tamil Nadu government is doing a lot in the district ECRs, as I understand it. Getting premises for this kind of facilities is very difficult to do in a private setup. They take care of medication, they take care of psychiatric care, they take care of food. Instantly we could see that the cost of running this model and the synergy and the power that the government gave is way more than a private effort. And that's why we instantly said yes. The model has worked well, surprisingly, because many of these collaborations always do not work as intended, and that too for such a consistent period of time. It's worked very well. We're very excited by the model. And recently, again, we got a call saying, could we do more districts in Tamil Nadu? And we said yes to that as well. And this is a model that I wish the Tamil Nadu government would encourage more states to adopt. And we are quite keen. We support at least 40 partners, more than 50 partners in India who work on this intersection of homelessness and mental health. We support another set of partners who work on community mental health programs as well. And the need is everywhere. And I do hope that this model that the Tamil Nadu government has established is taken forward hopefully in Karnataka or in many other states, and any help from the NHM here to talk about this model to other states would be very useful. And much like we sort of stepped in and provided the financial support in Tamil Nadu, we'd be very glad. There's no reason not to. If thousands of more people are going to get reunited with the families, it's a very, very compelling program. That is one. The reintegration rate that Shilpa ma'am mentioned, that 60%, honestly, we were also surprised by it. We did not expect, based on our past experience with the Banyan, we thought that maybe there would be a 20-30% reintegration rate. And we were really surprised when we saw the data coming in that 60% of these people actually managed to get back home to the families, which is perhaps the gold standard of reintegration as compared to anything else, home again or hostels or institutional care. And that's really been a wonderful outcome of this program. Again, the organizations working in the districts, I think they've been very good finds and very good partners in this. They've really put their heart into this program. We were in a review meeting with them recently, looking at the data from the program. And this kind of effort also gives civil society organizations working in rural India a new breath of air. Because it's so hard to survive, it's so hard to raise money. CSRs don't visit you all, or they look at radius around their offices. And generally a very tough situation to raise money for civil society. And a program like this with a package and with a clear and mature sort of model really brings a new sense of purpose to civil society organizations. And that has been another sort of very useful contribution of this program. So with that, I will hand it over to the next speaker, just thanking everyone for the collaboration again. Thank you very much.
Just to the last point that you said about the model being shared with other areas, if you could repeat that, because I think we have our MP and we have Sangma here as well, so if you could just repeat that.
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying that the work done by the NHM and Tamil Nadu in the health department, if it could be shared with more states, because it's a very exciting to see in action. We've seen this repeatedly in action. I visited all the ACRC districts which we are supporting. Mr. Premji has visited, and even landed up without notice on some days. And one has always seen very consistent quality of service, the ambience, the vibes of the place, very positive. I mean, many of these premises are in beautiful old government district hospitals, very green, very spacious places. Madurai, for example, is a truly wonderful place where it is housed. And I feel that if other states see this model and look at the fact that there is a civil society ecosystem that will support things that maybe the government is not necessarily geared to do, then it really becomes, many philanthropies and NGOs look for this perfect collaborative efforts. They're very rare to find. Right? They call it collaborative and they declare it success very often too early. But it's a rare to actually see it in action. We think this is one such. It has really worked out well. And I do believe if another state saw that what this opportunity is, they should grab it. And I don't see why they wouldn't. So I'm repeating the...
May I add here, Ms. Vandana, that maybe with ACS Madam's permission, we will hold a seminar shortly where I'll invite the MDs of all the NHM, all the states, MD of National Health Ministries of various states, and maybe we'll have a dissemination session in one of our districts where we are doing very well, and maybe we'll share our experience with all of them and see if this can be taken up in other states.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Next, you're going to do it together, Mrinalini, Archana, Padmakar, and Mrinalini, Ravi for the Banyan. And the question for them is, based on your experience leading this from 2018, what do you see as distinct pathways to homelessness in rural Tamil Nadu? That's the big challenge. And how are the services being accommodated as a response? Mrinalini is my primary, along with Vandana is my primary contact with the Banyan. She's very efficient, she's very upfront, and what I notice is the leading people in the Banyan have humility. They want to learn from others, including the people they serve. And that has to be maintained, because once you become successful, there are temptations. Even in a discussion and so on, I watch closely this, how you learn from Trieste or Hope or Home First and other experiences, and whether you're able to have an open mind and so on. So I think this is a special thing for both of them and for the Banyan in general, particularly its leadership. But you'll have to sustain this attitude, this approach over the longer term. And I think you've been able to do it for 30 years, but now you are truly an influential intervener, as has been brought out by the government as well as the foundation and other partners. How you deal with others, all this I think is going to be very important. But I would like to commend particularly this aspect, this trait in your work so far. Now, I've taken 1 minute, so you can add it to you.
So good morning, everyone. I think with great humility, I would say that my co-lead, Mrinalini, Ravi, and I are quite humbled to be part of this journey since 2018 in terms of replicating ECRCs across Tamil Nadu. Now, this was a response by the state and in collaboration with several other civil society organizations, with the Banyan taking the lead in terms of replicating a key mental health service for homeless people with severe mental health issues. Now, as you all know, COVID-19 pandemic did accelerate a huge mental health crisis, and all of us were very much part of it. Eventually, what we also got to see is that there was significant impact on the general community and the general population. And among them, at least 1/3 of India's population also live below the poverty line. And that's the population probably which was most hit in terms of deprivation of basic amenities. And if they were accessing a single service provider, they could not access general health services or mental health services for that matter. Now, if this is the plight of the general community and general population, probably people who were homeless in the streets of Chennai or any other part of the world probably were most hit in terms of during the lockdown especially, where they could not access basic amenities. There weren't good Samaritans in terms of who could come and support with food, clothing, or other kinds of emotional needs as well. That's also something that all of us do on a day-to-day basis. So when this was happening in Chennai, what we also did discuss with Dr. Radhakrishnan sir at that point of time is to look at how do we respond to this need towards homeless people as a response, because I think in terms of an acute care facility, I think government already had a model of a similar sort, so it's nothing new. But for homeless people, in fact, if we want to look at a service delivery, at the peak of COVID, I think that was a very brilliant conceptualization of a service delivery in collaboration with the government and with the civil society organizations. Along with Dr. J. Radhakrishnan, we also had the support of Dr. Darez Ahmed, who is the former director of National Health Mission as well, and Dr. Nagarajan, who were also pioneers of this model in terms of taking it forward, in terms of their huge strength in terms of implementing this model. So thank you, sir, for that. So coming to the public-private partnership, there again, I don't think it's a new concept, because as far as health service delivery is concerned, PPP is quite a model that people do go to, because in terms of amplifying services, in terms of looking at, in case you would want to look at the efficacy of a particular health service at a grassroots level, in peri-urban areas, in rural districts, PPP is the model to go for it, because you need multiple hands, you need multiple collaborators to come forward to with a common vision, with shared goals in terms of looking at the larger impact rather than the key performance of every person who's playing a key role in terms of the larger impact. Now, in terms of the PPP, what we also got to see is bringing everybody together during the COVID pandemic was quite a task because we had a government order in place. But at that point of time for the state, it's quite understandable that probably dealing with the pandemic, and there were so many deaths at that point of time during COVID wave 1 and 2, probably that was a larger priority to look forward to. But what we were advocating as an organization was in terms of looking at what about the homeless people? What there were people on the streets who were dying? What about the people who could not have access to basic amenities? What about them? If we don't do it now, then when would we do it? So therefore, we advocated very strongly for this model to be kick-started then, rather than looking at it post-pandemic, because I think that was the key value system on which the organization also stands itself for. Thereafter, in 2018, we've collaborated along with the National Health Mission, and then we had ECRCs kickstart in about 5 districts, where 2 key districts, that is Tirupur and Valaja, were taken care of by the Banyan in terms of capacity building, in terms of implementing, along with the district mental health programs. And then in 2020, there again, seeing the outcomes of ECRCs in 5 districts in Tamil Nadu, we again kickstarted this model in about 6 districts during COVID wave 1. Where we created, in 2018, the first phase of replication, we created about 200 beds. In 2020, we were in a position to create about another 200 beds. And now, in a span of another 2 more years, that is 2025, we'll be at 320. So 320 plus 200 will be around 520 beds, in addition to the number of beds by the government ECRCs. So very grateful for this collaboration by the government and the civil society organizations who are so much like a family, because all the organizations, right from Soya Trust, NAVA, Shed India, Vare Foundation, Chellamuthu Trust, everybody has been a key pillar of support. Archana Trust has been a key support in terms of seeing through this very consistently through the pandemic and post-pandemic as well, and they want to do more. And what's very important is people have also learned to understand the ecosystem of mental health as a practice itself. So it's not just about creating acute care services, but rather seeing through the services in terms of looking at acute care needs, also looking at a phase of stabilization, looking at recovery phase, looking at discharge planning, looking at reunification, either to the family or to an NGO. That is something Malaiappan sir also probably will be focusing a lot more on in terms of what about long-term care. And in addition to that, the most important part of intervention as far as ECRCs are concerned is the continuity of care, which is what the World Health Organization also proposes as quite a framework in terms of not just rendering services with regard to acute care needs, but if they've had history of even one episode of homelessness, there's a huge possibility for them to become homeless again. Therefore, the role of aftercare services plays a huge part in terms of maintaining the services and also the follow-up rate. In collaboration with the NHM, our follow-up rate is at about 76% today, and that has steadily increased with tight monitoring, with also close follow-up with the civil society organizations and with the Banyan team as well, because on par with the global standards, if you see, I think we've done exceedingly well in terms of looking at the follow-up rates, also looking out for every individual who's probably accessed ECRCs and gone back to families or to other NGOs as well. As part of these services, I think more of the other data, I think we also need permissions to disseminate, which probably we'll do during the workshop. But otherwise, in the span of 3 years, we were able to render our outreach services on the streets, looking at crisis care, looking at continuity follow-up, and one-shot services as well, for about 3,500 individuals on the streets. We brought in about 1,000 of them into our ECRC services, out of which around 700 individuals have gone back to either families or to their or other NGOs or to the Home Again programs. And out of that, 76% still continue to come back to our services, come and visit the ECRC sites. They love to visit the ECRC teams, to spend more time with them. Sometimes they also cook food and bring for the ECRC teams. And they also come back to our DMHP services. So therefore, there's a large more convergence between the district mental health program and also the services that is rendered by the civil society organizations across every district. And therefore, you're also getting to see a lot more deeper engagement with the community as well, in terms of collaborating with SAGs, collaborating at the panchayat level, because that's far more key in terms of sustaining our interventions, because it has to slowly become a community response as well. not just a biomedical model, or not just a psychosocial model, but rather looking at the entire community in one frame, user being part of this framework, the caregiver also being part of this framework, the government being part of this framework, and CSOs being part of this framework. So
you have 1 minute.
So if you're looking at also understanding pathways to homelessness, I think I will allow my colleague Mrinalini to speak on pathways to homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. First of all, it's been a wonderful 3 days, and thank you, ma'am, for coming. Thank you, Mr. Sangma, for being here. Boss has spoken, so I'm going to keep it very brief. I think what we would like to talk about before we get into the pathways is really the collaboration, because I think there is a lot of value in all of us coming together. In terms, when we started, this endeavor, and we said, we need to get other organizations involved. All the organizations, about whom Archana has spoken, and many others who were a part of this, who are going to be a part of this, I think we were set on the values. We were everybody. There was humanitarian responses. There was empathy. There was ethicality. Everything was set. But what I think we have learned from each other in the past 4 years is consistency and everyday ethics, because there is so much about verbal and non-verbal communication with any partnership. The partnership that we establish with the people whom we serve, the partnership we establish with each other, the partnership we establish with the state. I think what we have sort of made happen, and we will be very, very proud to say this as citizens of the state of Tamil Nadu, is that we have made sure that the values and ethicality, there is so much cross-learning in terms of values and ethicality, and I think that is what was most important, because the intent was always there. So thank you very much for making that happen. Finally, about what Archana talked about, pathways, I'll keep this quick. What we are seeing in the district hospitals, the people who come in, the profile of people whom we see, it is a smaller universe of what happens in the cities, right? It's caste, it is gender, it is poverty, it's a microcosm of what happens everywhere else. And what makes this special is that there is proximal access. So the time, precious time is saved when you are only 5 kilometers away as opposed to 50 or 100 or 500 kilometers away. So, and we are seeing the density of the distress right there before it dissipates and becomes a chronic distress which cannot be addressed. So, pathways largely is as a result of discrimination, is as a result of poverty, is as a result of gender-based violence. So, our values, our clinical and treatment protocols are pretty similar to what a larger hospital will have, but faster, and more consistent and closer to where the individual needs it. So it's truly like a client-facing model, and what we will request our colleagues from other states to do is to really look at this model, not necessarily with us, but generally emulating the concept of public-private partnerships is something that I would request all states to take up. And yeah, thank you very much. I have nothing else to say.
Vandana, you wanted to add something? Thank you.
So I just had one quick point to add for your consideration, considering that we seem united and as a collaborative that is approaching this huge concern of homeless people with mental health issues. I think everything that the NHM, IMH, Banyan and several civil society organizations who are really anchoring much of this work and the Azim Premji Foundation are doing is fabulous. But the point that I'd like to highlight or raise goes back to what Dr. Radhakrishnan said about his visit to IMH. So there's some way in which, just like Tamil Nadu has been a leader in many ways. If there's something that we can do with the state-run hospital, I do recognize that it's perhaps the oldest, and I do absolutely appreciate the huge amount of work and the large number of people that we have serviced. Outpatients, huge numbers. Inpatients, huge numbers. Homeless people, huge numbers. But I just feel that from this lesson that we've learned of smaller units, where you have 25 beds that are integrated into the public health system, there are 3 gains. One is you achieve not just the same number of beds, but more beds. They're more proximal to people whom we're trying to service. That's the last mile, really. And they distribute, they're scattered, they're in districts. The third is that the outcomes are perhaps faster, and the reunification or the social inclusion or the community inclusion is perhaps better because there is personal attention, there are adequate human resources, and it's again integrated or interlinked with the district mental health program. So there's some way in which we could have a conversation where we don't talk about, where we move away from just this large institution with 1,000 people to smaller units and many more of those. And I just feel that the outcomes also from a human rights point of view will be better. Because as much as you may not have, we've had many articles in the press, and of course those are spoken of beating and things like that. They happen at the Banyan as well, where there is somebody who's oppressed and there is somebody who doesn't have access to rights.
Please keep it brief.
Yeah. So in that context, I just feel that total institutions are a problem.
It's only fair that Dr. Malaiappan, who represents the Institute of Mental Health and possibly the National Health Mission.
Banyan for giving me
you will have another chance to make your own. You are a final speaker. Just respond to this. Okay, you can. Okay, you do both. That's fine.
I thank Banyan for giving me this opportunity, and to protect the rights of persons with mental health issues, there should be 2 things. One is legislation, law, and the other is services. We already have a law which is more advanced, and we have to build more services. I agree with Banyan. We have to build more more services to provide. Only when services are provided, the rights will be protected. If services are inadequate, there will be the law will be only remaining in the paper, and we will not be able to protect the rights of the persons with mental health issues. So, in this path, in 2009, Government of Tamil Nadu has started public-private partnership in mental health issues through the differently abled welfare departments. 10 homes for the mentally ill were created. Small 50-bedded homes were created in 10 districts, and now from since 2009 to 2024 now, we have 52 homes for mentally ill, each 50-bedded small homes where those who require long stay are placed. And in 2015, again for these homeless people, Government of Tamil Nadu in collaboration with Banyan and other NGOs started emergency care and recovery centers, each nearly 50 bedded. So small units have already been started in the pipeline. And I want to say one thing, whether it is a huge institute, a medium-sized institute, or a small institute, or a very tiny four individual home, again, whatever may be the size of the institute, the rights will be protected only if the training and attitude of the caretakers are reasonable. When the individuals are not having the right attitude, then the rights violations can happen even in one's own home, where I am born. In the family in which I am born, if I have a person with high expressed emotions and a different attitude, my rights will be violated. So it is the attitude of the individuals, caretakers, the training the individuals receive, that is more important than the size of the hospital or the home. That is my personal opinion. Whatever be the size, we have to see the rights are protected, their freedoms are assured, their outcome is improved, they are reintegrated with the society. So that will, so many deficiencies are there in all the care levels, whether it is a huge institute or a acute care hospital or a medium stay home for the mentally ill or ECRC, there will be deficiencies. Gradually we have to move forward and see the deficiencies are minimized and the quality of care is improved. That will be my answer for her question. And
he is the director, and There have been many attempts at reform, for example, with the warders, right?
Yes.
Re-educating
The
them and so
attitude
on.
of
You
the
can speak.
caretakers
Yeah.
is the most important key in protecting the rights of the individual, whether it is a huge institute or a small home for the ECRC or a home again. If the attitude is negative, we will be facing problem. So we have to more focus on the training, selection of them, recruiting. While recruiting them, we should see that what is the personality of the individual. All these things have to be focused to protect the rights of the persons with mental health issues. That will be my.
Yeah, now your
It is
attitude.
Size of the institute is not very important. Whatever may be the size.
Correct.
It is the personnel who is running the show is more important than the size of the institute. That is my humble submission to this august audience.
Thank you. Dr. Radhakrishnan is going to speak to what improvements have been made by the present government, the DMK government.
See, what has happened now, see this, I would personally feel that if all can be made aware of this, guidelines and protocols which was, released by government in February 2022, historically, if you look at before the drugs were there, obviously, historically, institutional care used to be the only solution. When you, slowly, 80, 70, 90, 18%, it was all. But the first drugs, when they started coming and the recent drugs, medical care came. So, internationally, the moment is transition of care to community-based models. This actually has been officially, Government of Tamil Nadu has said that we should slowly move on. But for that to successfully happen, like he says, we need to, we cannot abandon the institution, but that should be only a temporary resort. It cannot be a final solution. Internationally, people have been moving, which is what the present government has also been, the deinstitutional movement which is there internationally has also been, I think perhaps Tamil Nadu would be the first government which has gone on record to do that. That would be my addition. But we have, like I said in my thing, while we have done a lot, there is so much more to do. Ultimately, parallel capacity building of people who are in the field is badly necessary, and support to the institutions to ensure that they don't. Everybody feels very happy that anga thalli utturla, keelpak putturla. So they also are suffering on account of that. That's why several recovered people are not going back to home, because people's concept also has to slowly change with the advent of better medicine and better social care. Thank you.
I think we'd like to underline the role of the state, that is the government, in this. In all this talk, we cannot lose sight of the fact that it's the government that has the resources, that has the responsibility, and that has to lead the whole effort. But what is your policy towards partnerships? Because earlier we heard, before you took over, that there was quite a lot of resistance to working with NGOs and so on. Is that true? You may also have something to say.
Yes, yes. So before you respond, so we were talking of improvements in image and how we would like to engage. So in fact, my predecessor, Dr. Darez Ahmed, and the team had already had an idea of enhancing the capacities of that institution by, so we have a project of TN Nimhans project. So modeling after the Nimhans, we have taken an elaborate project which will improve the services there. They are an academic institution as well. So now the three-pronged approach that they have, director himself has planned, is to how do we improve or add on to the academic side on several other new courses that he has planned, and how we can improve, because enhancing the capacity of the psychiatrist and the psychiatric services in the state as such is very important. So various things like adolescent psychiatry and various other topics that he has thought of, I think it will add value to the academic institution. And as provider of services, the main problem there is that we need a lot of infrastructure improvement. Now, the government has granted us 40 crores in which the new building is coming up, and we have sought for much more funds for overall improvement of the infrastructure there. So, see to it that patient-friendly atmosphere is created, and for the attenders as well. Because the most important thing is to support the attenders of these people who come over there, and also in terms of stay arrangements for the short-term or long-term, those arrangements to to be made. So an elaborate program is underway. So we are discussing with the government for funds, and I'm sure with all this, there again, as director, we all always meet and discuss. There are certain strengths of NGOs we would like to always take up, sir. Like when we talk of de-addiction, we had an association with TTK, SCARF, and many such organizations who have helped us in arranging program. Be it community outreach and capacity building, we always feel that NGO participation helps. So when we take up this elaborate exercise in enhancing the potential of, and the services in IMH, we will surely engage with many of these organizations who are in this field, and we will take it forward.
Thank you. Dr. Malaiappan, do you have anything to add to this?
We would like to cooperate with Banyan in the community work in creating home again, so that we can send our long stay patients to the home again, and we will be very much in collaboration with the Banyan, because we have patients who are staying there for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. If you have home again in Tamil Nadu or in any state, and if we have long stay patients who are willing to go there, we are very much happy to collaborate with the Banyan. And I think we are actively collaborating with the Banyan in the community services for persons with mental health issues.
And on your behalf and on behalf of all the people here, I'd like to appeal to the Tamil Nadu government, whose senior DMK leader is here, the MP, to strengthen support, allocate more funds for infrastructure, for research. The details, I'm sure you are a champion of that. And of course, there are constraints because the central government is hogging a lot of the finances of this country. But there is a strong case for supporting it, provided it's on these lines.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now a leader of a senior institution, Dr. Ramasubramanian of the Chellamuthu Trust. He's been dedicated to this for more than 3 decades, and is regarded by most as the senior-most organization, providing services for people with mental illnesses.
Thank you, sir. Dignitaries on the dais, and respected Kanvali Madam and other, my present Health Secretary and past Health Secretary, other friends. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity to share some of my practical experiences, especially in implementing the ECRC. My dear friends and ladies and gentlemen, in a country with 144 crore population, and especially in that 10.6% population are suffering from the serious type of psychiatric illness, with an lack of awareness, inadequate human resources, long distance to travel, high cost of treatment, and also the stigma plays an important role in creating homeless mentally ill. Government alone will not be able to address this magnitude of the problem, especially when we are involving the important stakeholders in the community. It is going to address the problem. So on one side, the need is more, the other side, the service is less. And another important thing is, in my the 50 years of experience, this is the private-public partnership is the most important solution for addressing this problem. Banyan meticulously planned this one, ECRC, the model, and it is one of the successful model which is implemented in Tamil Nadu. And our center, and in fact in this ECRC model, I am going to talk about the challenges which we are facing and the obstacles we are facing, and certain requests I am going to make in the presence of our bureaucrats. And there are 4 important components in the ECRC. One is creating the awareness, second, rescue operation, then creating the treatment facility, then after the rehabilitation, then reintegration to the community. This is a more important thing. First, I will come to the creating the awareness. The creating the awareness, it is a very, very important thing about this project. And especially, sir, getting the especially FIR from the police people, or getting the CSR, the medical certificate for the police people. It is a Herculean task for the NGOs operating the ECRC. The humble request is, this is the time we should educate, sensitize all the police officials about the importance of the mental health, and also giving the relevant certificate, especially they should give the medical memo or FIR. It will ease the entire process. And another the important thing, when we are creating the sensitization to the common public, and they will be joining the movement, and it will become a community movement. And so far, in the 2021 we have started, we have organized about 554 community outreach program, and we have rescued 96 people, and I am extremely happy to tell you that we have reintegrated 65 people, and we have given for 13% we have given a placement. My personal feeling is, anything, the success of the ECRC depends on how many people we have cured, and how many people we have reintegrated, and for how many people we have given a livelihood. This is the more important thing. Then another thing is, during the rescue operation, we are facing a lot of difficulty. For example, the shortage of the ambulance. Exclusively, if you have got an exclusive ambulance for this program, it will ease the whole problem. Because suddenly our people, they are going, and suddenly they are approaching the patient, and immediately they are calling 102 or 108, and they are busy with their own the commitment. So, if there is any other alternative arrangement, definitely it will ease the problem. And again, I have already told you about the police people. And again, the treatment aspect. One of the salient features in this ECRC is the situation of this program. It is situated in the midst of the hospital. It is an ideal thing, because there is a stigma. It is not only present in the public, it also stigma, it is arises in the minds, it is present in the minds of the physicians and also in the doctors. So these people, when they are seeing the people who are wandered in the street, who are kept in chain, who are kept in dark room, who are not wanted by the community, when the ECRC people, they picked them, they gave them the treatment. After seeing the recovery, the attitude of the doctors, my own colleagues, so they will be changed. So the location of the ECRC program, it is an ideal thing. I congratulate the Banyan team for the selecting such places. And another important thing, right, when the patient is very much disturbed, the patient is violent, when they require active treatment, we are sending the patient to the GH. And in GH, what is the real problem? When they are resorting to the active treatment or ECT or any other electric treatment, and again getting the consent, it is also a Herculean task. And it has got a lot of medical legal problem. Again, this aspect should be addressed in an elaborate way. And another thing is the caretaker. See, we have allotted about 3 caretakers for the entire program. Of course, it is good for basic the need, but there should be lot of another important more caretakers for this program. If you have got more caretakers for this program, the program will be implemented in an effective way. Then, as a mental health professional, treatment alone will not be complete. Any psychiatric treatment will not be complete without rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is the most important thing. So, in all the NGOs who are operating the ECRC, my humble request is concentrate on the rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is the most important thing. When the patient identify the ability and identify the assessment and improve their ability, definitely they will be able to stand on their own leg. Why the family members, they are hesitant to take them back to their family? Because these people, they are not independent. The family members, they are having a fear that they will totally dependent on them. So my humble request is treat them, rehabilitate them, make them independent, and both physical and as well as economical. Definitely the family members, they are going to give you a helping hand. So our model is what we are doing is in Austin, but the rehabilitation ECRC center, it is located in a beautiful setup at Austin Batti. It is once upon a time it was called as a TB hospital. Now it is a beautifully transformed and it is a beautiful setup. And in that we have got a lot of land wherein we are employing these recovered patients in the agro-based rehabilitation. This agro-based rehabilitation, it is meaning for the patient, the meaning for the therapist, and meaning for the family. So that is why the agro-based rehabilitation is very, very essential. After the rehabilitation, when the patients are recovered, we are sending them to the halfway home. Then again in the halfway home, when they are fully recovered, then we are sending them to the home again. So there is a beautiful concept developed by the Banyan, that is of institutional care, then halfway home, then the home again, then we will send them to the family. And during the treatment, when we are able to identify the family members, we invite them and we ask them to see the recovery of the patient. And in fact, we will involve them in the whole treatment process, in the rehabilitation process, and we make them confident. In fact, our important the role is in this, the role of the counseling to the family members. Family members should be empowered. Family members should get a confidence. The family members should develop a feeling. Here is an intuition wherein I can get help at any time. Here is an intuition. I can get any emergency help. Here is an intuition. Here it will give you a helping hand. Definitely the problem will be over. So this is another thing. And last on the reintegration. See, rescue. We are giving the patient in the street. Then we are giving the treatment. Then we are giving the rehabilitation. Then we are sending them to the community and family. My dear friend, after sending the patient to the family, don't shed your responsibility. The responsibility is more. So what we are doing at Madurai is, I asked our family, the social workers and psychologists, make a periodical contact with the family members. Are they taking the medicine? Are they doing it regularly? And we are making a continuous and constant follow-up. That will give you a confidence about the family members. And also, it will prevent the relapses to a greater extent. So continuous and consistent follow-up with the social workers and psychologists for these patients is very, very essential. And then there is
now if you can conclude, we have some questions for you. So yeah, I have. Yeah, it's good. From your own presentation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What improvements have you work large in the southern districts in Tamil Nadu? You are the largest service provider there, isn't it? The southern districts. What have you noticed any change, any improvements over this long period, 30 years? And secondly, do cultural factors relating to caste or socio-economic strata, so far as family members' attitudes are concerned, do you notice anything based on your experience? First, any improvement?
In fact, I am proudly to tell that there is a silent revolution is going on in the field of mental health in Tamil Nadu. In fact, only in the entire country, all the districts has got district mental health program. And I am happy to tell you that in all the districts, headquarters hospital, we have got a psychiatric ward and psychiatrists, psychologists, and also we have got a mobile psychiatric unit, and it is catering to the PHC and also at the taluk level. And another important thing, not only the treatment aspect, also we have established the rehabilitation centers. And only in our state, there is a beautiful relationship between the private and public part with the government and the NGOs. There is a beautiful relationship. And another thing is, in 2001, the Yerwadi tragedy took place. And in fact, even though it was a tragedy, even though it was a nightmare, it was a turning point in the mental health scenery of the entire country. And wherein judiciary entered the scene, and social activities entered the scene, In fact, at that time, my present health secretary was the joint secretary, and she was meticulously following the whole thing, implementation at the district medical program of Ramnad. And I am extremely happy to tell you that that program was suggested as one of the best programs in the country. In fact, our former the Secretary Radhakrishnan was there, and we got the best program in the country. And another important thing, sir, I am happy to share that we have involved the religious institutions in the mental health, sir. For example, sir, there are so many religious places. The project, sir. And there are so many religious institutions that are famous for in treating the psychiatric illness, especially Yerwadi in Thuthukudi district, Puliyambatti, the church, ma'am, and in Palani. And there are so many the religious places. The families who are having these type of patients, they will leave the patient in the premises of the temples or churches or dargah with the hope that the Almighty will take care of them. So lakhs and lakhs of...
But there should be, is there a lot of quackery involved in that?
Yes, sir. I am coming to that point, sir. So what we did was, first we sensitized the religious people, dargah people, churches people about the importance of psychiatric treatment. In fact, I took them to my center, my rehabilitation center. I conducted a sensitization program and they had a lifetime shock on seeing the recovered patients. And we told them, and they asked me, why you are unnecessarily involved in our religious practice? I told them, I don't want to involve the religious practice, but your faith is more important, and also my treatment is more important, because, so that is why we joined together and we will work together. Now we have established a separate center, sir, mental health institute at Yerwadi itself, sir. Once upon the entire city was changed by so many people were changed in the area, sir. And we have created another center to Palani, sir. The Palani we have recently started, sir.
Yeah. So thank you. Come and sit here. There will be questions. Yeah, questions, please. Specify the person who would like. Yes. Please introduce yourself, and I request you to stand for the cameras. Otherwise, we can't see them. People in the back. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Malik Gul. I run a mental health charity in London, and I'm very pleased to be here. It's very interesting how there is a comparison between the conversations we're having here today and conversations that we're having in London. And my question really is just a reflection on the exchange that we had around what our colleague said about the smaller units, and our senior colleague talked about the institutions. And of course, we completely agree that there needs to be a similar ethic and empathy from institutions to smaller community organizations. But I think the question for us very much is around power, and who has the power and the developmental power. And quite often institutions have much more power and exert much more power than small micro communities. So while there is a sharing of ethics and there is a sharing of empathy and there's a need to have a consistency of approach, the smaller micro groups are disinvested, lack power, lack an ability to be much more forceful within the work that they're doing, because the redistribution of power actually is all in the hands of the institutions. So I think that the question very much about smaller micro groups is not a question of ethics and a shared ethics, it's a question of power and who has the power to intervene, where the institutions are overwhelmingly dominant in that space. I wonder if our colleague could comment on that.
I fully agree with you. Huge institutions in the past and as well as in the present, there will be a lot of power in the administration, in the caretakers. They will be exercising on the inmates or the patients. That has to be agreed. And but now in the past few years, there is a gradual change in the attitude. Now we are sending our patients outside the institutes in the morning. They go back and work in industries, small industries, hotels, bakeries. They come back they have the freedom, they have the right of freedom of movement. They come back again in the evening. They go to Jawaharlal Nehru Auditorium for sports practice. they go to beach, they go to cinema theaters. So gradually the power is coming down and the power is given to the patients. So we are shifting towards an authoritarian center to a egalitarian center, where the administration, the caretakers and the inmates are equal in nature. We are moving towards that, and in the near future we will be successful in becoming a institute where rights will be given more importance than an authority or a imposing power structure. We are moving away from that, and hopefully in the near future we will be successful in that.
Can I just ask a supplementary question?
I think you were asking about empowering the smaller organizations. So when I think this is the right model. If you see the collaboration that we have with Banyan, although Banyan is a statewide organization, they in turn have partnered with the local smaller organizations. So these smaller organizations existed even before this collaboration. So I know many of these, be it Chellamuthu Trust or the very small unit like the Soya Trust I know from Tirunelveli. These are not new, they were there. As you said, they lacked power and the voice. If the local administration supported them, they were doing good work. Otherwise, they would always do based on the CSR and some philanthropists who would support them. Yes, this collaboration has actually empowered them. So when we have this MOU with Banyan, and then they in turn have the MOUs with the smaller organization, it is actually empowering. Now this is a learning point, as I said, not just in recovery and care of wandering mentally ill people, but in various fields, be it for de-addiction or any other mental health services we are providing. We have now started collaborating with smaller organizations who have the reach and who have that empathy to work. And that is a beautiful collaboration I think we would be looking forward in many other spheres as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. I think funding will be the more appropriate term, I think, than power.
Yeah, thank you. This is Karthik Chidambaram with DC CAP. Thanks Mrinalini for inviting me here. I just want to say thanks to the Azim Premji Foundation and the Banyan. I just want to share a story. So one of my friends, he's really well educated, did his engineering in Tamil Nadu, went to the US, worked there and came back and all that. But then he got mentally ill and he was homeless. And we tried to take care of him, tried to do a lot of things. He was on the roads. He used to come back, and then we got him admitted in one of the mental health hospitals in Chennai. He recovered. But then, we really didn't know what to do, and it was very, very challenging. He recovered. We got him some work somewhere, but then he went back again to the streets. And then he was not to be found. And it was very concerning, right? Because I also had this thought, hey, is he really alive or not alive and all that. It was very painful. But then, thankfully, Banyan and the Azim Premji Foundation, right? So they worked together. He found shelter in their place, and he's been recovering. And he's on this path to recovery right now. I also talked to him. I just want to say a big thanks to the Azim Premji Foundation and the Banyan. And thanks, Mrinalini, for having me here as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. Yes, Dr. Kishore, Director of the Banyan.
This question is to the NHM Director. With respect to people who are reintegrated with their families, there are many issues that we are not aware of. One of them is the families not being able to take care of the ill relatives. The reasons are that they don't have the financial resources to do so. Oftentimes, they don't get accommodation that is necessary in the community, because if there is an ill person, the house landlord is unwilling to give them the housing support. So when we follow up people who are reintegrated, close to 40 to 50% of people are not traceable because their housing stability is extremely low. So in such a situation, is it possible for us to create an allowance for families to care for them? Because adding financial assistance to these families may go a long way. About 25 years ago, Banyan initiated a disability allowance. And we find that a significant number of people are able to hold on to treatment because the disability allowance kind of encouraged the families to use these services. They were able to use this money to come to the outpatient service and continue treatment.
What kind of amount? Disability allowance?
So this is, in fact, we have in the Banyan a carer allowance which is about 1,500 rupees now. I am sure that this is far too insufficient. It may be in the range of about 3,000 to 5,000 rupees for every family. Perhaps this amount is far more sensible to be given to them rather than they becoming homeless or committing suicide or disappearing from the family.
Very true, sir. In fact, they are eligible for the attenders. Disability pension is there. The attenders who, even today, from the Department of Differently Abled Welfare, they do provide. It is, of course, insufficient. But in the policy that we have drafted, we were talking of the homeless. What happens to them after rehabilitation? We have spoken about all these measures there, sir, from the rehabilitation point of view. What support should we be giving when it comes to housing, for their day-to-day living, and for their vocational rehabilitation? See that they do get properly employed. So all these are there, I think, and this requires several departments to coordinate to make this happen. And we have picked it up from the document you had given us after the study that which was made regarding these people. And I think that has come out very well. We have given it to the government. I think once the policy is out, we will definitely have a very collaborated effort in rehabilitation of these people. Yes.
Professor Sanjeev Jain.
I just want to make a brief addition to this. The adjoining state of Kerala has done the simple thing of doubling the pension. They give the pension for one other member of the family who will be the caretaker. So same thing can be done very easily because it's already been done by a state.
In fact, sir, we already have that policy where if there is one member receiving mentally ill pension for these people, it doesn't bar the other person if he is eligible, say for an old age or another kind of a disability. But you know, in Tamil Nadu, sir, every family do get another benefit. Like we have the Kalainer, women benefit program. It doesn't. If you see the guidelines, we have not barred that as because one person is getting the pension, we have not barred them from getting it. So I think that is there. But going ahead, as Dr. Kishore mentioned, housing and other supports are definitely required. So that we have brought it out in the policy, and I think we'll be talking to the other departments as well.
See, the only other addition which I would like to see is now, instead of looking at it from one angle of only pension, I feel that a number of others. Now I have come. Earlier I was in corporation. Now I am in consumer and cooperation and food department. No other state is giving universal public distribution system as in Tamil Nadu. So when 2.13 crore families get, why not we run a special camp to these people? 10 million. So to these people, ensure that we have campaigns for Aadhaar card. We have campaigns to ensure that he gets into that PDS. He gets free rice and dal and sugar at subsidized rate. So he gets individually recognized as a special individual. So we did try it in corporation of trying to do. Then suppose young children are there, they recover from mental illness and ensure that their admission come. So we have to have a multi-pronged approach in addition to the pension. Apart from that, looking at food security, then home security. The other thing which I say that information disability. That is a biggest challenge, that so many things are there. Sometimes we work in silos, so we need to share these things are there, run special campaigns to ensure they get access to this information, and we facilitate that they are fast-tracked into this thing. Thank you.
Most states do not give free medicines to patients, and Tamil Nadu is the only state which give free medicines to all the patients, including mental ill patients. That I want to add.
Sir, sir. Yeah. Sir.
Yes. After him.
Can I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, okay. The it's a question for
the cameras can see.
It's a question for all the speakers. I mean, for the panel, if possible. Someone reply. What is the reason why a district community-based service has not been developed in India, despite the great experience of the NGOs, particularly the Banyan and others, in providing local services? Because this is the model that has been successful in Italy for the reform. It's for 50 years, and also in a big country, which is Brazil, which now is going to close definitely the large psychiatric hospitals and replaced by a system of community services and general hospital small units to address people in acute care. This is a demonstration that is not just a model which is idiosyncratic for Trieste or some places in the world, but can be scaled up. But it's based on the idea of a flexible service that encompasses a number of the ingredients and components that you mentioned before. So it's capable to be flexible, outreaching people in their homes, facilitating easy access, not just waiting for the patient in the office, so like typical outpatient services, providing spaces for healing, including some small residential therapeutic communities or residential places where people can stay for a while during recovery, but just providing services at the district level. What do you think? This is feasible? To what extent? I think India has now the resources, which is developing, the economy is fastly growing, so you deserve to have a fully community-based service, and why this is not achieved so far. Thank you.
So I would say participation of this collaboration with the civil service organizations is very important, and we do recognize, but the main thing is we should get the right partners. It's not easy in all the fields to get the right partners. So if we really find the right ones in the field, we will definitely, we are open to it. Government has always been open to it. And community level services is that which Tamil Nadu is aiming for. If you see the medical services also, sir, if we have a very unique program called Makkalai Thedi Maruthuvam. This is the first time in India that we have we have been providing home-based services, be it screening for non-communicable diseases, providing palliative care at the household level and physiotherapy, and also providing them with other services at the household level. We have been delivering medicines to the people's household. So as you rightly says, we are moving towards community level participation. In fact, the self-help groups, that is the Women Development Corporation, is now planning a very big program for providing mental health care services for the geriatric population at the community level. So, and these are just few examples, but we have found various fields in which we can start working at. We have moved from the institution level, now we are moving towards the community level. In course of time, I think you will see more programs as such.
So, thank you. Yes, please.
Sir, அதாவது இப்போ நம்ம தமிழ்நாட்டில் வந்து சார் இப்போ மனநலம் பாதிக்கப்பட்டவங்களுடைய விழிப்புணர்வு வந்து நம்ம அதிகமான காரணமே இந்த இசிஆர்சி ஒரு மாடல் தான் சார். அதில் வந்து பெஸ்ட்டாக வந்திருக்கிறது காரணம் வந்து நம்ம அவுட்ரீச் வந்து தான் நமக்கு இன்றைக்கி அவுட்ரீச் பண்ணுறதுனால தான் நிறைய கிளைண்ட்டு வந்து நம்ம எடுக்க முடியுது. இப்போ ஆனால் அவங்களுக்கு ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் கொடுத்தாலும் அவங்க லாங் டேர்ம் கேருக்கு தான் எங்களுக்கு ப்ராப்ளமாக இருக்குமே. இப்போ நாங்கள் மெடிக்கல் கேர் கொடுத்துட்ருக்கோம், அவங்களுக்கான செல்ஃப் கேர் கொடுத்துட்ருக்கோம், அவங்களுக்கு வீட்டி ஆக்டிவிட்டீஸ் கொடுக்கோம், எல்லாமே கொடுத்தாலும் கூட அவங்களுக்கான அடுத்த ஸ்டெப்பு ஹோம் அகெயின் அடுத்த மாடல் வச்சுருக்கோம். ஆனால் ஹோம் அகெயினுக்கு அடுத்த மாடல் எங்களுக்கு கொஞ்சம் ப்ராப்ளமாக இருந்திருக்கு எங்களுக்கு லோக்கல் பார்ட்னருக்கு. இப்போ நீங்கள் சார் சொன்ன மாதிரி இந்த ஏர்வாடி இது, அதுக்கப்புறம் இந்த நம்ம புளியங்குடி சர்ச்சு, ஏரல் இதிலலாம் இப்போ நாங்கள் திருச்செந்தூரில் இசிஆர்சி வந்ததுக்கப்புறம் மேடம் எம்பி மேடம் வந்து இசிஆர்சி திருச்செந்தூரில் ஆரம்பித்ததுக்கப்புறம் அங்கேருந்து ஏர்வாடியிலிருந்தும் இந்த சர்ச்சிலிருந்தும் புளியங்குடி சர்ச்சிலிருந்தும் எங்கள்கிட்டே கிளைண்ட்டை கூட்டு வரதுக்கான மாடல் கொஞ்சம் மாறி இருக்குது. இப்போ லாங் டைம் தான் எங்களுக்கு பிரச்சனையாக இருந்துகிட்ருக்கு மேடம். அதுக்கப்புறம் ஐடி, ஆதார் ஐடி, இந்த ஐடியில் அதெல்லாம் கொஞ்சம் ப்ராப்ளம் வந்துருக்கு.
Director will translate the question and
yes,
then...
So he is just mentioning that with all the outreach activities, we are now being able to create that awareness, see that help is available, people are approaching us for the rescue and recovery services. So as partners, they are now being able to help people for recovery and during their stay in the institution is good. But he mentions his concern that after that, when it comes to rehabilitation, social reintegration, that is the biggest challenge. So that is because many a times we do face challenges in getting them identity cards, giving them those specific welfare schemes, enrolling them in welfare schemes is being a challenge, is what he has mentioned. As I mentioned, sir, we have thought of all these when we are coming out with the policy, where we have mentioned how it is difficult, as sir rightly mentioned, getting an FIR is difficult because there is slight confusion on what is that section we have to put up when we find this person. And then it is a challenge when we have to give them basic identity cards, give them the social welfare measures, and give them PDS ration cards, and enroll them in various welfare programs. All these hurdles have been addressed. Like in IMH, we are now not insisting on Aadhaar card to give them health insurance card. We have done away with any kind of identity card. We said every inmate of IMH will get a health insurance card. We are not insisting on Aadhaar and other cards. Now we are extending this to all other inmates of ECRCs, because sometimes Aadhaar is mostly digital and their biometrics have, if it is already captured, we are not able to retrieve those numbers. So those technical issues we are resolving, but to provide for services, enrolling them in basic services, we are trying our best to remove all the hurdles that are there so that their services are not hampered. This is what you rightly mentioned, and I think rehabilitation, that is after his stay in the institution, getting them back, I think that is what we all are working on. It is a huge challenge, be it home again or social reintegration. I think, sir, in course of time, we all will work together to see that it is streamlined.
And on that note, you have one question. Okay.
Hi.
2 questions,
Yeah.
be brief, please. Very brief.
Vanakkam, ellarkum vanakkam. I'm Dr. Hamsadwani Gohanandam. I work in WHO Geneva right now. So before that, I was working in NHM with Dr. Darris's team. Mental health policy work pannamodu, the whole team was completely involved in it. So I'm so excited to hear all the updates about ECRC now. Once I went to WHO, my mentor was the advisor to Tedros, WHO DG oda mentor da vandittu, he was my mentor. So I was asking him, so how do I take whatever experience I have and take it forward? And he said, of all the work that you've done, which one is the most interesting, which one is the most satisfying work that you've done? The first thing that came to my mind was ECRC. And we couldn't have done that without Banyan's collaboration. So I remember the meeting that we had with Vandana and her team in NHM office in Annasalai. How it all started is there was a high pressure to develop a road safety policy, TN state policy. And then mental health policy and cardiovascular policy was also on the radar. But there was one incident which changed the entire, which was a shocking incident that happened. I might get in trouble for saying this, but I'll say this. There was, in 2017, a 45-year-old, 46-year-old woman who was mentally ill, wandering mentally ill, and she got impregnated by for whatever reason, she got impregnated, and she had a twin pregnancy. Adukaprom, by 6th month or something, there was she was not registered in any of the antenatal hospitals, and then there was IUGR, the twins died, the mother died. When this news came, Darrisar was shaken, we were shaken, we didn't know how to handle that, so we dropped all the other policies and we started working on the mental health policy. And then we started doing all the budgeting and everything. And the next year, it was already tabled and the budget was given. So I'm just sharing this so you get the perspective of the teams working behind it. And since how long it's been happening, we went to inspection with Malaiappan sir and Chellamuthu sir.
But what are you doing now to contribute to
right
this
now?
service?
So I'm here. Firstly, I'm here. I came here for my dad's passing away. So that's the reason why I'm here to listen to the conference. But this is.
Oh, so thank you. Thank you for that.
No, the TN is the best public health work. That the most interesting work of all the work that I've done in Delhi or Geneva is in TN. So nothing else stays close to my heart than this project of all the projects I've worked on. Thank you so much, and please focus on gender and mental health, especially women who are getting harassed. The first question when I asked my dad was how can someone harass a woman who is mentally ill? That I can't digest that at all. So focus on women's safety and mental health, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
With due
So-
respect to the dignitaries, very good morning to one and all. I am Deepa. I am a rehab professional for over 20 years, an occupational therapist by profession. I just like to say that I think with great pride I can say Tamil Nadu has been the trendsetter in everything, in all health sector, in all terms of benefits, in terms of insurance, and I think it deserves a good round of applause, for state of Tamil Nadu for doing such wonderful work. This time I'd like to make a mention here. So there is a dearth of occupational therapists in National Mental Health as well as in the ECRCs. My humble submission is, please, we need occupational therapists. So I was mentioning about rehabilitation. So no rehabilitation is complete without an occupational therapist.
Why humble? Demand it.
No, humility is what you appreciated, sir. So I would like to take from you. So definitely, I think we can do a lot of wonders. Together, I think we can engage, we can enable, and we can empower people for them to thrive. This is my humble submission. Any help, anything, I'm always there, sir, to do. Yeah, thank you so much.
So thank you very much to our panelists representing the government, NGOs, and the foundation.
Thank you so much. A round of applause, please, for this exceptional panel that has truly represented the theme.